Well, welcome to the podcast. Nathan Newberry here, your host. I have Dr. Michael Neal that's joining us on the podcast. Super pumped for you guys to listen to his story and his past and what he's doing now, serving people in leadership and helping people recruit top talent locally. And so we're going to dive into the differences between, overseas as well as in person, talk about his story of how he kind of discovered his line of sight, because what he's doing, he doesn't even look necessarily at resumes. So we're going to really kind of dive into some specifics. And then toward the end, we're going to talk about some more tactics and principles of things that he does to hire. So stay tuned and stay toward the end as well. For everybody that's listening, down below in the show notes, I have a free workshop for people that are wanting to build an audience online and knowing how to build a coaching company, but leverage AI, ads, build a media and sales team. That whole workshop down below kind of explains how you can do that. It's my gift to everybody that's listening. Check that out. Michael, as we dive into this, I want to get your take on a question I ask everybody, but is what is high performance? What does that look like and mean to you?
It all depends on the business or situation, perhaps. In a business setting, high performance in my world with an in-office type focus is a person who, like one individual who can do the work of 2.5 to 3 people and not even realize they're special because it's right in their natural strengths and talents, and they do this all day long. They go home energized. They come in happy the next day, raring to go. They require goals and a vision, but not spoon feeding, nor cat herding or kindergarten teaching, anything like that. They're completely standalone people that just want to perform. That's what it looks like to me.
And you're an ultra runner too, I believe, right?
Yeah. Didn't see that question coming. Yeah. Done a couple of marathons. I ran a 12-hour race, a little over 60 miles in 12 hours, and wanted to see if I could marathoning. I've been doing for a couple of years, but wanted to see if I could do the ultra and finish. And I did.
That frame of mind to do such things like that, even build a business, takes a different tact. It takes a different high performance level. What kind of was that mindset for you? And how do you teach people now to kind of have that frame of mind?
What are you capable of, Nathan? Like, you ever sit around and just throw that question into the mirror when you're standing in front of it? What are you capable of? It's not a Hollywood type question. I really think that people could ask themselves that every once in a while. And, I didn't roll out of bed and run 60 miles in 12 hours. I trained consistently for a couple of years to do that, but was able to pull it off. I don't know that I'm excited to do it again, per se, or longer. It was right at the tip of injury, but yeah, what are you capable of? I think that virtually everybody, given an opportunity to demonstrate that to themselves and to others, would be shocked at their capabilities. Completely shocked.
Yeah, I love it. I want to kind of get to that mindset a little bit later, but tell the audience a little bit more about what you do, how you serve people even more.
Well, I have a software company that started in 2018, and we figured out a way to hire people without looking at resumes. We focus on positions where the people actually show up in your office. They're entry-level type clerical positions, secretaries, bookkeepers, executive assistants, admin assistants, all of those types of things. And we do the hiring based upon a completely automated process. It's done for you as a client. And we find these top A performers for our clients, and we get them into their offices, get them rocking and rolling. We only do one thing, and that's it. And how do I serve humanity? It's a massive, massive magnifier for talent. So if you're a CEO or a business owner that is trying to rock and roll, but you're doing all kinds of stuff every day that you don't like doing, well, we find somebody who loves doing that, can't wait to take it off your plate. You scratch your head and say, how could somebody actually want to do that? And they're like, how could you not? I love this stuff. So, when you start to add folks like that to your team, things get pretty exciting. They're real hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. How did you discover this? Bring us back to the very beginning of this. Because you're an entrepreneur, you're a hustler, you're a doctor, you have so many, acumen. Like, how did this all begin? Bring us back to the beginning here.
Well, it didn't start out as, boy, I'd sure like to solve this for the world. It started out as, I need to stop having so many problems hiring in our eye care practice. It was extraordinarily hard to find people that were great at the positions. And the reason being is we were doing it all wrong. We're just flat out doing it wrong. We were hiring entry-level positions based upon using their resumes. And anybody who's listening who's tried to do that, you could just scream into the ether, because it's It's so frustrating to do that. Nowadays, you get people who don't show up for interviews. You get all kinds of stuff. It's really a difficult situation. And what I was trying to do back then in 2018 was to escape it all and get outstanding people into our business that were those A players. And it took a while, but we created an automated way to do that.
There's always the pain points that an entrepreneur has that tries to discover that. Were you a SaaS guy before, or how did you end up developing some of this? Because I think you're, optometrist, like you and your doctor, you're like focused on that. Like, how did you have time to balance this between family and this, and then this other entrepreneurship journey here?
Well, one of my I'm not very good at many things, but there's a couple things I'm terrific at. And I'm quite open about sucking at the rest of it. So the couple things I'm terrific at is finding people who are really great at executing a vision, and was able to get a team to put together, build the software. I don't code or anything like that, but got a team to build the software, got it all working really, really well over a couple years. We created feedback loops, so it just kept getting better and better and better. And it's essentially all about the team. So as I told you before we started this podcast, I drink my own Kool-Aid. The team does the work. Yeah. And if you're trying to run a business where you're doing the work, for a lot of people, you've essentially bought yourself a job. But you don't have the freedom of a job. You're not getting 2 to 4 weeks holidays a year. You're going home on Sunday night wondering who's going to show up, Monday morning, that type of thing.
What was it like then? Like, there's a difference levels of like hiring A, B, and C players, right?
Sure.
And especially like we're now shifting into more of a global audience where we can tap into talent all over the world instead of just the local, brick and mortars. But sometimes people still need that local talent to kind of help them in a lot of ways.
There's so many advantages of having local people. Maybe they don't show up at the office every single day, but you try. I'll give you an example. There's this thing going around on the internet right now where this fella overseas had 14 different jobs at the same time. Knock yourself out, buddy. You are a scammer of all scammers. But when you have to show up in an office on a routine or regular basis, you can't do that. It just doesn't work. So that's an extreme example. But what also works really well when you have team members showing up for work each day, you get the camaraderie, you get the team building. A lot of that stuff is, I don't know how you build teams over Zoom. That's a real tough row to hoe. You know what I mean? But doing that in person where you're getting to serve people, you build that team. It doesn't take long before those folks, especially the high performers, run with it and they take off. They just start doing the things you couldn't imagine your business performing at certain levels.
What is the difference between an A, B, and C player? Like in your definition, the way you categorize them and then sort through them in the software, like how do you know if they're a good high performer or not?
Well, our software, its outcome is to literally give a thumbs up for the people we know can do the job. Then we do some further, like we do a video interview after that for our clients. It's all done for them to tighten it up even further. But an A player, B player, and C player, you're not talking about people per se. You're talking about a fit to the role. Got to be super specific about that. An A player can be an A player to one role and an F player to another role type thing. So it's really the tight fit to what you're asking them to do. And as if it's in their natural strengths and talents to do that role, they can knock it out of the park. There's a couple pretty good examples of this. You can take an A player, replace 2 B players. You pay them 30, 50% more, and you're still coming out ahead by anywhere between 50 to 70%. And you say, well, how can one person do the job of 2 people? It's a cinch, an absolute cinch. So, 1 A player replaces 2 to 3 C players. Yes, happens all the time. An A player replacing 2 B players, B minus, straightforward. B plus, a little less tight there. But this happens all the time. And what we're talking about is essentially the person's fit to the role that you are asking them as a business owner to do. So for example, they show up for work in the morning, they're raring to go, they're excited about the day, they enjoy what they do. Okay. Now you ask as the owner of a business, you ask your team members if they enjoy what they do. Well, you know what the answer is going to be because they're not going to tell you the God's honest truth every moment. But these A players do that. You don't have to ask them if they enjoy the role. They're telling you that they don't have time to chit chat right now. They got work to do, that type of thing. There's just a lot of really terrific examples for that. And I'd say that the most extreme example of this can be found in software, where you can have a person building software who is so obscenely productive at building software that they function at a higher level than departments, not only teams, but departments of people. I think the highest I've ever heard was one fellow who replaced 100 team members. They weren't good. The 100 team members weren't great, but one person did that. There's an app for a Mac I just downloaded where one guy built it, an entire browser, an entire like Safari, Chrome, etc. He did it in 6 weeks from scratch. So there are people out there that can do this. Are they easy to get a hold of? No. Another example is OpenAI. Mark Zuckerberg is just at the time we're recording this, he's going after a bunch of OpenAI employees and he's paying them $100 million. That's their bounty if they come join Meta instead of staying at OpenAI. $100 million for an employee. I mean, I don't care how you slice that, but that person needs to have a bed beside their desk.
Right.
Be brought all their food, have a bathroom beside their desk, and ideally chained to it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
oh my goodness. Yeah, it's crazy.
So how do you lead people? Because I feel like you got a lot of HR departments that just handle the 1% of the challenging C players, right? With these big corporations or even smaller ones where it's like they're challenging people to work with. And
Yeah.
I heard this once is like you want all A players in your team, but at the same time, maybe you can handle B players as like entry level people that get to A players. Like, how do you vet? How do you find these? How do you lead those type of people?
Well, getting a full A player team is challenging. You're going to need some B plus too. Not all of them, but some of those folks as well. And how do you get these? I mean, that's what we built a company around is finding this level of talent. And again, I want to reiterate that it's not the person, it's the fit to the role is the primary motivation for selecting them for that particular position. So when we have clients that are looking for these positions to be filled, let's say for an executive assistant or a secretary, I mean, we've hired a gazoodles of just all kinds of secretaries for extremely high level secretarial positions, things like that. It's straightforward. We know exactly what it takes to be a truly outstanding secretary. And, in that type of example, you get one person who can do the work of 2.5 to 3 easily. It's what fuels them. They love it. They go home satisfied. It's pretty exciting to get that type of person on your team.
Yeah. I remember reading this book from Dan Martell, Buying Back Your Time, and he talks about that's the first thing you got to, hire is an EA.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's great that you have a lot of experience to do it. And I think there is a difference between finding someone overseas and in person.
Right.
What's kind of the difference that you're seeing now with, having a role that can help you assist you in person versus just overseas help?
In person facilitates a level of trust that you're going to really struggle with the overseas help.
Okay.
You've got a person who can show up at your business and meet you in a coffee shop, whatever it might be. And almost all entrepreneurs that I know of love the in-person, right? They're better at in-person than they are at good grief. If you got to trying to run a company with a virtual assistant. I've tried that from multiple different companies before I started to build my team. I tried different approaches. It flat out does not work for me. I want somebody who can sit across a proverbial table. And, once you get a relationship built, it doesn't have to be in person like this. You can do that sparingly, intermittently, however much you want. But it flat out works better. You also don't run into some of the international cultural differences that can be flat out debilitating. Anybody who's used a virtual assistant knows exactly what I mean by that. But sometimes you just can't get it off the ground. You are, no matter what you do, you're looked upon as somebody who's extremely wealthy, can pay more. There's a bit of a target on you with regards to that. And on the other hand, there are people who use virtual assistants for long periods of time who function wonderfully. That is the exception to the rule versus the rule. And on the in-person side, I mean, that's how our clients prefer it. And that's how they get maximum productivity.
How do you lead a team with this? Because I'll give you an instance. Like when I was hiring virtual VAs over the years of doing marketing agency, the two challenges I realized I had was one, I didn't have the systems dialed in to kind of help train them, right?
Yeah,
to help them
sure.
succeed. It was kind of like, hey, fix this problem. And you're throwing them and hoping that they swim and they just don't do. And you're like, dang it, hiring doesn't work. You try that.
Sink like a rock. Yeah.
And then the other one was I just didn't lead that well. Like I didn't have the training things right. And then there was also sometimes a competency gap between either me and my leadership, or I hired because I need someone to help me with this instantly. And so I hire bad and the competency level for them is not the best. Like, how do you lead through that?
So there's the old story about getting the right people on the bus. Okay. So I'll answer this question with that story. When you're trying to build this high functioning team, you have to build it well before you can lead it well. That's something that I think gets overlooked, in a lot of ways. So you got to get the right people on the bus, which is defining those systems and processes that you're talking about. Job descriptions. Yes, entrepreneurs, you actually have to write job descriptions, or Build My Team will do it for you. Shameless plug. But when those job descriptions are accurate for what you're asking the person to do, then you can find these people and get them, well, basically doing the job. So translation, you get them the right people on the bus for the different positions that you need on your team. And then, and this is the most surprising thing about it, you get them in the right seats on the bus. Most people skip this step. I've seen it over and over again. And I have been categorically guilty of skipping this step as well. So one of the folks that I work with showed me the importance of that and how incredible it is for performance. When these people, like, you get the right people on the bus, and then sometimes you have to shuffle them around. We have about 50% of people who apply for jobs through Build My Team. Their strengths and talents aren't situated in the position they applied for. We can switch them into another position if a business is hiring more than one position, that type of thing. And they are much higher performers based upon that. That's getting them in the right seat of the bus. Then on the owner side of things, who's going to drive your bus? Maybe it's you. Maybe it's one of your senior team members. All depends on the business. But what you do then is you focus on the map. Okay, here is exactly where I want you to drive the bus. Most entrepreneurs don't spend much time on it. Your team can't read your thoughts. They don't have tinfoil helmets. They're not plugged into the matrix. They have no idea what you're thinking unless you tell them in a crystal clear way. There's a fellow named Dan Sullivan who created a tool called the Impact Filter. He's from Strategic Coach. It is an incredible single page tool, nothing more than a PDF tool that will help entrepreneurs crystallize and communicate what they're looking for with this map on how to drive the bus. So you provide that information to your team in a crystal clear fashion. They're going to ask you a bunch of questions. You answer those questions. Maybe there's round 2 of questions, but then that's the map. And you put guardrails on the road, because of course you're going to do that. You're not going to let them drive the bus off the road. And then off you go. Get out of their way. And that's where, when you have these A+ performers and you can get out of their way, which is really tough to do as an entrepreneur, that's when you will see them drive that bus faster than you ever thought possible, further than you ever thought possible. And most importantly, and we exit the metaphor now, get results, incredible results. That's where the focus can be. And I think that could be contrasted a lot of times to, like what you said earlier, where you HR departments spend their time on the C players. Well, what if they didn't? And this requires support from the executives. What if they instead focus their time on replacing the C players? Flat out replace them. Get more A players, B+ players on your team. What you would find is that the HR folks don't have a lot to do once that's done. It becomes maintenance. But you're not dealing with, like, look, everybody in HR has got stories that would just blow your mind. You're like, really? That actually happened. And you want to hear another one and another one. But instead of focusing on that type of way to spend the time, if instead it could be focused on getting the right team members on that bus and in the right seats on the bus, that's where your businesses take off.
Is there certain structures or organizational things that you do or you know of that's helped you kind of streamline and organize things? Because there's certain infrastructures that work the best, dashboards or systems or metrics that you have with key KPIs or things like that. I'm just thinking, for people that are listening in, what are the things that you always want to see for that success to hand?
Well, 3 things: a professional ops person, profit sharing, and a complete crystal clear understanding of how your business makes money. Sounds simple, right? Yeah. So we'll start off with a professional ops person. I had this experience when I brought somebody in from completely and utterly outside healthcare to run a healthcare practice. They had zilch experience, zero, nada, nothing in terms of experience in running a healthcare practice. And they did stupendously well. Absolutely spectacular outcome. Why? Because guess what? Your healthcare practice is the same as any of your listeners listening to this who own a business. They are all so spectacularly similar. It's ridiculous. Maybe you're into products. You sell products. Maybe you sell services. Maybe you sell consulting. Well, guess what? That's a service. So you're going to have all these different types of ways to provide value for clients that falls into just a couple of buckets. And zeroing in on how the business makes money is critical. For example, you think, especially in eye care, there's, as an example, it's a product-based and a service-based business. You think you have to have all of these products. You don't. You think you have to have all of these other things. You don't. So streamlining that to focusing on just a handful of things and getting exceptionally good at them. That's what a person with outside who comes in from the outside, who doesn't have these bad habits, that's what they can produce for you.
Is there certain AI things that you prefer using, or do you have your business using it? How do you leverage it?
Well, I don't get, well, we like ChatGPT, we're using it's not just that one, but we're using the major AIs for time savings. They are nothing short of miraculous for time savings on that stuff. But the main thing is a human who understands people, managing those people. A lot of businesses, especially large businesses, just choke on middle managers, and small businesses don't have anything. So it's owner to the team, and that's it. What was crystal clearly demonstrated to me is when a business gets to a certain size, you bring in a professional operations person, because entrepreneurs as a category can almost never keep the train running. And you bring in a professional operations person, that's what they do. The train runs on time, no matter what. And it's an extraordinarily freeing experience as an entrepreneur, because that is not my skill set. Not even remotely close. And the opposite is true, where profit in a business gets magnified when the train does run up. And it can be absolutely mind-blowing how much profit there is locked in a business where you don't have that type of approach.
Interesting. How can people get connected with you and learn more about what you do and follow you more? How do people do that?
Yeah, by all means. If you're interested in hiring without resumes, and specifically by filling your open positions with folks based upon their natural strengths and talents, you reach out to buildmyteam.com. We are not just in healthcare. We hire for all kinds of different businesses, and we focus on that in-person approach. It's tried and true. It's a completely done-for-you service. And it's inexpensive relative to what everybody thinks. That's how we are helping our clients essentially pay it forward.
Love it. I'll put those links down below. Go follow Dr. Michael Neal down below, and build your team, buildmyteam.com. I think I'll put that down below so you guys can connect with him further. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you guys for tuning in this episode, and we will see you guys in the next episode.
Thanks so much for having me.